Is there one thing that Labour could say that would make you think, yes, they've got this, they understand what it's going to take to do this very hard thing over a single parliament?
Well, I suppose I would look to perhaps what they're not discussing today. And as an example, we have an 11.6 billion maintenance backlog. So we know we've got crumbling estates, and that is often a rate limiting step for ramping up activity. So I think the thing that would give me a bit more confidence is, I mean, they are saying they'll do several things. So more money for staff, max out private sector capacity if necessary, although there isn't that much more to go at for the reasons you say. Ensure this is a priority across the system. There are other things at play. So estates, crumbling buildings, maintenance backlog is a rate limiting step. Similarly, I think the staffing issue is a sort of harder nut to crack than perhaps today's statement gives recognition of. The most recent NHS staff survey reported really high levels of stress and burnout. We've got high vacancy rates, and we do have almost 20% of staff in the last survey suggesting they're already working paid overtime. So it will be interesting to see how much and how quickly they can unlock using staff overtime as a lever and a mechanism.
Wes Streeting has set out some quite clear dividing lines, and he said, look, let me be clear, we can't spend our way out of this Tory NHS crisis. We will beat the Tory backlog with a fully funded plan and a drive for reform that is going to need to be matched. If you want to understand my appetite for reform, think New Labour on steroids. What do you think that means, and how does that make you feel? Sort of reform and New Labour on steroids. What do you think that means?
Well, I think that can be taken in a few different ways. And I suppose this is a key question. When I've heard Wes speak previously and other members of the shadow cabinet, I think there's been a recognition the last thing the NHS needs is wholesale reform. And we've just been through quite a bruising period of reform. We've got integrated care systems, quite frankly, still getting established and still bedding in. So I think reform may spook a few people, mention of that word. On the other hand, the sentiment that I hear, I suppose Wes expresses, public finances won't allow huge increases in spending in the health system. Therefore, we do need to invest wisely and reform where we can. So I think, Ayesha, it depends what they mean by the word reform. With reference to New Labour, I think I hear a pretty singular focus on bearing down on waiting lists. As I said up front, I think that will be popular with the public when we survey them, when we talk to people. Clearly, a really high concern is, or a major concern is, struggling to access the GP, struggling to access timely care. So that will be really welcome. However, I think what I think personally is, yes, we need to attack waiting lists. We also need to leave time and space and capacity to reimagine healthcare for the future. And that does mean a more preventative agenda. It does mean thinking about diagnosing conditions earlier and helping people manage, so that they manage their health, manage living with more than one long-term condition, so they don't need to end up in hospital. And it's whether there'll be capacity to do both of those things.